Walk, keep on walking straight to the hell we made. Why always a wall, babe, when we wanna come closer? Don't tell a million lies, kill that. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. It's an engaging and enlightening talk show on life, relationships, and the business of life. Grab a cup of juice and just chill. Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. Live life. Live fully.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode. We really appreciate you joining us. This podcast really shows us how we can all learn, live, and thrive off of each other. By sharing our knowledge through our conversations, we will impart some knowledge whilst learning ourselves how to progress even further. Here is your host.
It's always a pleasure to be on Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. This is host Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen. This is Omobola Stephen on the show today. Now, if you want to catch up with any of my missed episodes, just go online and search for Life Well Lived by Omobola Stephen on any podcast distribution platforms, and you're going to have an amazing time on the show. And also, this podcast focuses on self-development topics with the occasion of amazing guests who come to the show to share their insight, both professional insight, personal experience, and also industrial insight on topics of subject personal development. Now, it's been an amazing time having these guests, come to the show to share their insight. On today's show, I have Paz Ellis, who's an author, who's going to be talking more about personal development. Welcome me on the show today, Paz Ellis.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Omobola, for having me. It's a pleasure.
Right. It's a pleasure having you on the show today. Now, Paz Ellis, right? Grief was something that changed your life. Can you tell me more about it?
My mother passed away. It was an unexpected death. She was ill. She was sick, and we knew that. But we figured she had maybe 10 more years to go, but God had another plan. And when she passed away, I went into very, very deep grief. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't focus. My kids were even telling my husband, when is mom going to stop this? When is she going to live? And I heard them. And when I heard that, I realized that I wasn't living. I was basically, it's almost like I died with her. I believe she took a part of me with her. And so the grief was so overwhelming that I could not function. I had already lost a father and to an illness as well. And I have my own issues, my own illnesses to deal with. So I was stuck. I was stuck in a place where I couldn't heal. I couldn't forgive her for leaving. I couldn't stop hurting. And I was mad at her and mad at the world. It was a very difficult time in my life. Very difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct. So, Paz, really, have you ever experienced any childhood trauma while growing up?
Did I what? I'm sorry?
Have you ever experienced any childhood trauma while growing up?
Yes, several. One of the big things was my mother suffered from chronic depression. And so that was always a cloud over my head. In our home, if my mother wasn't angry because she was very strict mom, she was depressed. So there were moments where we would laugh and, have a party, or we'd get together and have family over, and we would, have fun, let's say. But it was really just seems like there was always this shadow over us. of sadness. And let's say I had a good day at school or something happened with a friend and I was excited, or I don't know, I wrote a story and I wanted her to read it, or she wasn't even interested because she was so depressed. She was lost in that world, that deep cave, wherever she went when she was depressed. And that was something that affected me profoundly.
All right. Do you really have an idea of the root cause of her depression?
You know, I think it was had to do with abandonment issues. Her parents were divorced at a very young age. She was about 6 when they were divorced, and my grandmother was kind of a wanderer. She wouldn't stay still, wouldn't stay in one home. She took them from town to town. She grew up in the Dominican Republic, where things are a little bit different, and she would leave them with someone and she'd come back and get them. Sometimes my grandfather would see that they were out in the street or that they were wherever, and he would pick them up. And I think that's probably where hers stemmed from. And then she lost 2 siblings when she was still, one when she was still a teenager and the other one in her 20s. And I think those things kind of affected her emotionally and mentally, to the point where she had so much sadness in her life that she didn't know how to be happy, even when she should have been happy, when there were so many things she should have been thankful for. I think she couldn't see that. And I think it did start when she was very young, the trauma of basically being on the streets. It was hard for her and her siblings. I believe that's where it happened.
Right. So we can really link these to the childhood trauma that you went through, Paz, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. I had some other things when I was young, too, that I would say affected my life. And it had a lot to do with my father. When I was born, my mother almost died. And as a matter of fact, a priest even came in and read us her last rites and they told my father, "I'm sorry, but your wife is not going to make it, and your child," they didn't know I was a girl, "your child will not be born." And I think that traumatized my dad. And for many years, he treated me like it was my fault. Like if my mother sneezed, or if my mother was depressed, or if my mother had to go get surgery, anything, it was my fault. And we had a very strained relationship. And that's one of the reasons, too, why I think I was kind of a reclusive, because I was safer by myself than to hear someone telling me how I ruined someone's life. I was an infant. I didn't ask to be born. That was hard as a child. Later, we had a better relationship, but when I was a kid, that was my foundation. My foundation was a depressed mother and an angry father, and I was broken. I felt broken. And I've always carried that with me.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now, Paz, tell me, how has it affected your self-esteem and self-worth?
My self-esteem, terrible self-esteem. I have 2 sisters, a younger sister and an older sister, and my father always was really sweet to them. He loved my older sister and felt sorry for her because she was from his divorce, from a prior marriage. And my younger sister, she was really skinny and she was always sick and she wouldn't eat. So she was so cute. And it was like I was invisible. So I would look at myself in the mirror and think, oh my God, you're so hideous. People hate you. Like your own parents hate you. And I didn't know it then because I was just a little girl. But even today, I don't look in the mirror because I think what's going to look back at me is someone that causes pain, someone that causes other people grief. And so my self-esteem is terrible, and it always has been. And I think at this age, I I can't see it getting any better. My attitude has changed, but my self-esteem has not. It has not.
All right. Do you think you really need to work on your self-esteem and self-worth? Because I think it's really important for you and especially for your relationships going forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just had a conversation with one of my sons about that. Because he's dealing with depression and he's 21 years old. And I think it's hereditary, but I also think it's situational, his own issues he's had to deal with. And we talked about self-esteem, and he actually has good self-esteem, and I don't. And I tried to explain to him things that happened to me in the past and why I think it affected my self-esteem. And he says, yeah, but mom, like dad thinks you're beautiful and you people tend to like you and gravitate toward you. And I feel I don't see that. I hide behind my laptop, behind paper, behind a book. I don't see that. My self-esteem, it's just like, it feels like it doesn't belong to me. It's not mine. It's kind of strange. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I don't feel like I can control it.
Do I do, but I think yes, I think you need to see a therapist, right? That's very important for you, right? Especially because of your children, right? Because you can really give what you don't have, right? So if you're struggling with a kind of negative emotions such as depression, right? Low self-esteem, low self-worth, and low self-value, and poor self-acceptance or self-love, right? You can be able to give it back to your children. I think that it's very important for you as a mom to be able to put that in proper perspective, to put that in place, right? So that your children coming up, they can, because I think that positive attracts positive, right? So the energy you give, right, is very important. So I think that you need to really work on these emotions so that you can really live a really worthwhile and fulfilled life at the end of the day going forward. All right, so moving forward. All right, so now moving forward now, how was your life experience? How has it changed your perspective about life?
How has what changed
your life experience so far? How has it changed your perspective about life?
Well, the past experiences that I told you about in my childhood, are just things that I wear, like they are just a part of me and part of who I am, and something I've had to learn to deal with emotionally. But as an adult, I've had to deal with other things, with diseases and things that put me in the hospital and make me sick, and possibly I almost died. And so those kinds of things, where they should have been a negative, I think it was because of my mom, because even though she was very depressed, my mom had a great faith. She had an amazing faith in God. And remember when I was sick the first time, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis when I was 28. And she said to me, you're going to be fine. You're going to be good. Because my doctor had said I was never going to walk again. And well, I did. And I don't feel angry or upset that I have 3 diseases that I have to live with, that I have to go to the cancer center to get medication for. I actually feel grateful for every day that I have. In that sense, I do have a positive outlook on life because everyone has something. Everyone has to deal with something. And
absolutely,
it doesn't matter what it is. All we have is right now. And that's one thing for sure, that when my mother passed away, it took me a few months to figure it out. But all I have is right now, at this moment that I'm talking to you, Omobola. I don't have 5 minutes from now because I don't know what's going to happen in 5 minutes. I mean, we work our days and we plan our tomorrows, but I try to live each moment to the best that I can. I tell my children I love them all the time. I try to be a good person. I do what I feel I need to do. And I don't dwell on the bad things. I don't dwell on that I had to go to therapy the day before yesterday and that I was sick for the last 2 days. This is just my life, and other people have other things to deal with, and I'll be fine.
That's right.
And so in that sense, my outlook on life is different. I don't know where I